You know, we often talk about racism and discrimination as these big, obvious things, right? Like shouting slurs or blatant acts of hate.
Those are like the tip of the iceberg, the stuff everyone can see.
But what about everything else lurking beneath the surface?
That's where things get really interesting, and by interesting, I mean challenging to address.
Just below the waterline, we find exoticization, where people are treated like fascinating objects instead of human beings.
Then there's invalidation, where someone's experiences are dismissed as not a big deal. And let's not forget those backhanded compliments that leave you wondering if you should say thank you or file a complaint.
Deeper down, we find the truly insidious stuff.
Tokenism, where diversity is a box to be ticked.
Colorblindness, which pretends we're all the same while ignoring systemic inequalities.
Pathologizing or demonizing cultural values, as if expressing emotions differently is unacceptable.
And then there's the deep, dark bottom of the iceberg: implicit bias, second-class citizenship, denial of oppressive systems, and cultural appropriation. We're about to take a closer look. All right, let's start with the most obvious offenders, microassaults. These are the blatant, in-your-face actions and slurs that leave no room for interpretation.
Think using racial slurs, making fun of someone's accent, or telling offensive jokes.
You know they know better, but they did it anyway.
Microassaults are often intentional, but they can also be subtle.
Like when someone avoids sitting next to you on public transport or clutches their purse a little tighter when you walk by. It's these small, seemingly insignificant actions that carry the weight of prejudice and discrimination.
And the worst part? When called out, people often hide behind the "I was just joking" or "I didn't mean it like that" defense.
But here's the thing, folks. If your joke relies on punching down at someone based on their race, religion, or any other marginalized identity, it's not a joke.
It's normalized prejudice disguised as humor.
Microassaults, even when subtle, create a hostile environment.
They tell the person on the receiving end that they are not welcome, that they are not safe, and that their identity is something to be mocked or feared. So the next time you witness a microassault, call it out.
Let the person know that their behavior is unacceptable or ask what they meant by the comment.
Because silence only serves to perpetuate the cycle of prejudice.
Now, let's move on to a subtle member of the microaggression family, the microinsult. These are those slight digs disguised as compliments.
The backhanded praise that leaves you feeling like you've been punched in the gut.
Imagine this. A black colleague excels in their field and someone says, "Wow, you're so articulate."
On the surface, it sounds like a compliment, right?
But what they're really saying is, "I'm surprised you can speak so well considering your race."
It's the underlying assumption that stings. The implication that they didn't expect you to be intelligent or well-spoken.
Micro-insults can also manifest as assumptions about someone's background or experiences.
Like assuming that a person of color grew up in poverty.
Or that all Asian people are good at math.
These stereotypes, however positive they may seem, reduce individuals to one-dimensional caricatures and ignore their unique experiences and struggles.
And then there's the classic "where are you really from?" question. As if someone's appearance alone disqualifies them from being from the country they call home.
It's like saying, "You don't look like you belong here, so tell me, what's your real story?"
These seemingly small offhand comments chip away at a person's sense of belonging and self-worth.
It's death by 1,000 paper cuts, each one a tiny reminder that you are not fully seen or accepted for who you are.
So, the next time you're about to compliment someone, take a moment to check your bias.
Make sure your words are genuine and don't carry the weight of unspoken assumptions or stereotypes. And now, one of the most piercing forms of microaggressions, microinvalidations. These are the comments and actions that completely dismiss the experiences and feelings of individuals.
It's like saying, "Your reality isn't real. Your feelings don't matter, and your struggles are all in your head."
Imagine someone sharing their experience with racism only to be met with, "Oh, come on, that's not a big deal."
Or you're being too sensitive.
These responses minimize and invalidate their experiences, making them feel like they're overreacting or imagining things.
It's like telling someone who's just been punched in the face to walk it off. Microinvalidations also show up in the form of denying someone's cultural identity.
Telling someone who identifies as biracial that they're just trying to be special.
Or dismissing someone's non-binary identity as just a phase is a prime example.
It's the equivalent of saying, "I don't see you for who you are, I only see you for who I want you to be."
And let's not forget the classic "I don't see color" statement.
While it might seem well-intentioned, it ignores the very real ways in which race impacts people's lives and experiences. It's like saying, I'm going to pretend you're not different from me, so I don't have to acknowledge the systemic inequalities that benefit me at your expense.
Microinvalidations are dangerous because they tell people that their voices don't matter, their experiences aren't valid.
And their feelings are insignificant.
It's emotional gaslighting at its finest, leaving people questioning their own sanity and worth.
So the next time someone shares their experiences with you,
Listen with empathy and validate their feelings. Don't dismiss their reality or try to silence their voice.
Remember, your words have the power to either empower or erase.
So there you have it, folks. The complexities of microaggressions.
It's not always about the big blatant acts of hate.
Sometimes it's the subtle everyday slights that cut the deepest.
But here's the good news. Awareness is the first step towards dismantling this iceberg of prejudice.
once you start to see microaggressions for what they are,
Insidious forms of discrimination. You can't unsee them. You start noticing them everywhere. In casual conversations, in the workplace.
Even in your own interactions.
And that's a good thing.
Because the more aware we become,
the more equipped we are to challenge these harmful behaviors.
And create a more inclusive and equitable world. So let's commit to calling out microaggressions, educating ourselves and others.
And creating spaces where everyone feels seen.
Heard and respected.
let's make sure we're doing it together with empathy, understanding,
And a whole lot less prejudice.
We will expand on the iceberg of microaggressions. Let's take this time to discuss.